Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining today. I like
My
to start
pleasure.
off by having you introduce yourself and tell us why you joined TranQool.
Okay, so my name is Chris Brown, and I'm a therapist, clinical manager, and teacher. I've been working in the field for about 30 years, and been have a thriving private practice amongst many of my duties. I joined TranQool because for a number of reasons. One, it allowed me to extend my clinical practice and my professional experience. And it's no secret that different forms of technology and social media are going to be the way of the future, if not the way of the present. And it just sounded like a great and exciting opportunity.
Chris, what do you think are some of the benefits of doing cognitive behavioral therapy, specifically for mood disorders like anxiety, for depression, or anyone basically?
Well, it's interesting. The first benefit, I think, it's a thing that people look up before they come to counseling. There's some public knowledge about what this is, which I think helps people buy into it. Number one, and it's something that they can understand. Number two, it really forces or requires people to slow down. Let's deconstruct, as they say, what you're thinking. And just the very act of slowing down and looking at your thinking is very therapeutic because a lot of people don't slow down. They keep moving and moving and moving, and next thing you know, they're acting on these beliefs that may be grounded in misinformation or catastrophic thinking. And I think it's very beneficial because it's easy for people to understand. And it also, rather than saying, well, you shouldn't think that way, which doesn't, if it was effective, I'd be out of a job, but it says, let's look at your thinking and let's test it. Let's test to see if where you're arriving in your mind is accurate. And rather than saying you shouldn't think that or it's just challenging them, it requires the client to go, yeah, let me think about that. Let me test that. So it's really, in that way, it's very empowering.
Creating a relationship with your therapist is super important. But how does someone create a relationship that helps them and is constructive, but doesn't allow them to become too dependent on the therapist?
Okay, great question. Well, I think part of the responsibility of that is the therapist being very honest and open with the client. And that, and I do this. I know lots of my colleagues, if not all my colleagues, do this. Is talk about who that person's social network is outside of the therapist. That and who else are they sharing this with? And if they don't have anyone to share their life with, I don't mean necessarily marriage and dating, but share important stories. Then part of the work is constructing that network. Because you don't ever want to be just reliant on a therapist to be the only person that hears those important stories, hears those struggles, here's those triumphs. And there's a number of reasons. One, the therapist is going to retire one day. And they may not be around. They could move. And it's not a friendly relationship. And that's the second thing. I've had clients find me. I didn't find them on Facebook and they want to be friends. And I've said, I'm not your friend. I understand you feel connected to me. And, not in that room, it feels like we're doing well, but we're not friends. And that there's some things that you would not want to share with me. Some things that go on in your life. So I think it's right from the beginning, making sure the therapist is really clear that this is about building your own life outside of the counseling, that it is generally short term as it should be, and that if the counselor gets a sense from the client that they're becoming over reliant, you need to have a frank conversation about that.
Many people are looking for a way to live happier lives or live their lives at their optimum point. Do you think CBT is the right tool for them, or do you think therapy is the right tool for them?
Absolutely. The studies show that it is. The research shows. I mean, it's also a commonly held belief that the earlier we deal with any issue, the better we're going to be. That CBT is not solely for individuals with chronic long-term mental health issues. It can help those people for sure. But that's like saying, well, I'm only going to see people only see their doctor if they have chronic health issues. That's not true. Your general practitioner sees people with ingrown toenails as well as people that are concerned about long-term physical illnesses. So, I often use the physical analogy for people when they're talking about their psychological issues, because why wait? Why wait till something becomes bigger? Why wait for 2 years for an issue that can be dealt with in 2 months? And anxiety is a really good example. Anxiety is an epidemic in our society. And unfortunately, it's a reinforcing a self-fulfilling prophecy story in that people don't want to talk about it, so they remain isolated, they remain in their head. And we know what happens to us if you give human beings enough time and space to think about things. We don't construct wonderful ideas sometimes. We get very stressed out. It is so much more rewarding and beneficial to deal with this early because it also reminds people, and I hear this all the time, you mean I'm not alone? And just by hearing that, people suddenly feel that they're healthy, they're okay, and they're going to get through this. Because really, a lot of therapy is about hope and saying, there's an old saying, right? This too shall pass. It's not biblical. I don't know where it's from. It is a remarkably poignant, powerful comment. So you might as well get on it now. Why wait till it gets worse? Which you can't. You know, mental health issues unchecked can become comorbid, which means other things, depression, drinking. Why wait? We wouldn't wait for anything else. Why wait in terms of our mental health and our overall well-being?